Hi everyone. Okay, so I know that I said I would do like my last video would be my last before January, but I lied. Basically, I'm doing a book review today because I've finished reading it, and I'm very very excited to tell everyone about it, and I'll be like blah blah blah, because it's a fucking awesome book. My other half got me through it, and I've literally read it in a day and a night, a night and a day, and I've stayed up to about 3 reading it. And it is The Devil's Plantation. East Anglian Law, Witchcraft and Folk Magic by Nigel G. Pearson, publishing Troy Books. And I mean, straight away, just look at that, the design. And every time I'll do a review of Troy Books, of any book that's from Troy, and I think actually the majority of my book reviews are from Troy Books. Um, they delve in my flavour, and the books, the actual physical book, and I say it every time, but you really don't get books like this anymore. You do not get books like this. It doesn't happen, really, and it beats a shitty paperback book. Let's be honest, it really does. It's all bound, and it's just gorgeous. It's an absolute beautiful book. So to start off with, that just drew me in because it is very very pretty. um yeah, so I want to do this review, and it will be my last video now, until February time. But I wanted to do the review while it was so fresh in my head, and I've done this book. I've literally done this book in a night and a day. I got back yesterday about 7, and basically read up till like 2 in the morning. Woke up at like 8. I woke up at 8 because that's a different story. I thought I was meant to be in work and I wasn't, which was awesome. And when I sort of got up, I was like, I'll just read some more of the book. And I finished it about 1. So I've literally read this in a day and a night. I've never really the information of this book was so incredible, and I really have learned a lot of new tricks here, in terms of witchcraft and cunningcraft. And what I love about this book is that the author really does make a different split between cunning folk and witchcraft, which is very very cool. However, he also does say that witches did delve in some cunningcraft and stuff like that. But I do love that, and I actually love that this book is primarily dual faith, in the fact that it is the folkloric devil, and it is the religion of Christianity. And it goes so far as in the back you have an amazing section on working with saints. It's called 3 Crowns and Several Halos. And it's fantastic. It goes into different saints of the land of East Anglia, and how to work with saints as well from a modern perspective, and also describes some of the holy wells by the saints there, which is really really cool. And I love that. I absolutely loved this section. I loved all the sections, and the pictures are absolutely gorgeous. So there you have Folkways, which is more the counter magic sort of cunning craft section. You also have a section called Greenways as well, and then you have a section called Witchways, which is really cool. The book is very, very, very steeped in folklore. It is so rich in folklore, and I have learned so much of folklore of East Anglia / Essex, because at one point Northern Essex was also classed partly as East Anglia. I have learnt so much. I really, really have, and it's such an incredible book. And I just love the artwork in it. The artwork is absolutely beautiful. Circles as well, making various circles. It's so cool. And I tell you what I did rather enjoy as first chapter, I believe, the living landscape. I think it's the first. yeah, the living landscape. Basically, there's this really cool image here. You see that? That's a circle that's made out of yew and bone from some cliffs. I don't know whereabouts, but it's from some cliffs, obviously in East Anglia. And there was found this pattern, this circle or triangular pattern, on a cliff. And the author actually says, well, a couple of people done it. We don't really know what it's for. There wasn't any information divulged in it, and I love that. I absolutely love that the author admitted to saying, "Well, look, this was found, and this did. This is a thing that some people done. However, we don't actually know what it was used for." Because actually reading that and knowing that the author had said that, actually made me trust a lot more what the author said in the future, with various references and stuff like that. And I really, really enjoyed it. There's a fantastic thing in here about East Anglian witches, and it's really, really cool. I'll read you a story at the end as well, but God, I love this book. I love it. But basically, there's a lot of references as to how a lot of witches will say stuff to people and then stuff will happen. So there's stories of some like people, men or women, saying to their enemies, "You ought to be careful or your neck will be broken," turned right around, and then it will happen, a week later or something like that. Or you ought to watch your back, and then something falls upon their back and stuff like that. It's really, really interesting. I haven't really seen it in any other witch trials or any other explanation of witches. Obviously there's the "I'm going to curse you," but there isn't this in East Anglia. It seems to be a lot more specific. I'm going to read you this story at the end. Because you'll understand afterwards. And the way that it's wrote is really, really cool, because it's actually wrote in East Anglian dialect, some of it in like the accent almost spelt out as it's spelt out phonetically as to how people would say it, which is very cool. So I'm going to read you this part, and you'll see what I mean about the witches being very, very specific. "When I was a gal, witches were very real, and very, very real, and everybody believed they had the power to do harm. I myself never seen a witch flying through the air, but I did once see one being dragged across the river because she had bewitched a farmer's wife. She told her, you see, that all her children would be born with dog's paws instead of hands, and this had so upset the woman that she went clean out of her mind. When her husband knew what had made her like this, he was furious, and one night he made 4 of his labourers get hold of the witch, strip her and her shift, and tie her hands and legs together. Then they threw her into the river and dragged her across with a cart rope until she was 3 parts drowned. Then they hauled her out and laid her on the bank, face downwards, to let the water drain out of her. She recovered after a bit, and the men were just getting ready to give her another swim when she started begging and pleading for mercy and promising that she would take the curse off the farmer's wife. So they untied her and let her go after she'd promised to be at the farmer's house the next evening. After dark, when they were all to be there to see her take her curse off. Next morning, the old witch, having her own ways of getting things done, ordered a little port blacksmith to make her a Trinity bottle. That's a 3-sided one, not a round one, out of sheet iron, and she told him that while he was shaping it, that he was only to heat the iron 3 times. She stood over him as he worked, and before he put the red-hot iron in the anvil, she spat on it 3 times. The sweat poured off him as he shaped the bottle, for the old woman told him that from start to finish the job must not take more than 3/4 of an hour, because if it did, he would have a cold hearth and a silent anvil, because his strength would leave him, and for the rest of his life he would be too weak to lift a hammer. When the bottle was finished, the blacksmith was told to take it along to a nearby inn and have it filled with a quart of ale to see that it did not leak. The test showed that all was well, so then he had to drink the ale, emptying the bottle in 3 long draughts, no more and no less. It's very specific. That night, the witch went to the farmer's house where she found the 4 labourers and farmer and his wife all waiting for her. First of all, she ordered one of the men to go outside and bring in a hen from the yard, and she cut its throat so that the blood ran into the Trinity bottle. Next, she cut a lock of hair from the farmer and his wife and took clippings from their toenails. These she sprinkled with salt before putting them into a bottle, along with the insides of the hen and 3 of her tail and wing feathers. After that, she rubbed some of the gizzard fat on the wife's forehead and bandaged her eyes then, putting her hand up the chimney, brought down some soot which she sprinkled on both the farmer and his wife, who were ordered to go outside and fill the bottle with their urine. When the couple came back into the room, the witch stopped up the bottle with a piece of wet clay and put it in the middle of the fire. The candle was blown out and everybody sat in the dark, waiting for the spell to be broken. Suddenly, with a loud bang, the clay cork and most of what was inside the bottle went flying up the chimney, and a horrible smell filled the room. The charm worked though, for when the bandage was taken off the woman's eyes, she was as right as rain. The farmer kicked that old witch out of the house, though, and picking up the bottle out of the fire with the tongs, hurled it after her. His wife had 1 child, a girl, and there was nothing wrong with her. But do you know that when her first baby was born, 25 years later, it had deformed hands, just like the paws of a dog? Very, very cool. That is just one of the many stories in this book. It is fantastic, and it's very, very interesting to see how specific people are with it, and you'll understand it a lot more once you read the book. But I've literally golfed down this book, and I'll probably read it again. But I wanted to do a book review when my mind was fresh, where I was a lot more fresh, and I feel that obviously it will be a lot better than if I was to come back from Thailand and be like, yeah, because I have a memory of a goldfish sometimes. But yeah, The Devil's Plantation by Nigel G. Pearson by Troy Books, and what an amazing book. And I have learnt so much in terms of different techniques of witchcraft for different purposes. It really has taught me a lot more. And allowed me to go deeper within that East Anglian Essex craft. And it's fantastic, I want to add as well, it's fantastic that a book has been released that is based on East Anglian and Essex craft, because there really is such a lot of lore that is attracted to that area, as I've done a video recently about regional witchcraft. So yeah, The Devil's Plantation, East Anglian lore, witchcraft, and folk magic. Oh, and before I forget, the book really does also go into the actual physicality of the land as well. So it actually goes into various invaders that were in, like the Danes and stuff like that, various invaders that were part of, that basically have made part of East Anglia and through the ages and stuff like that briefly. But yeah, and that's very cool and very interesting to actually learn about the physicality of the land and the migration of so many different people and cultures from over time, just like a lot of places in Britain. So yes, peace out and speak to you soon. Bye bye.